we need to talk about pronouns. We shouldn't need to, but this has become such a hot topic that it's pretty difficult not to tackle this one straight on. Over the last 2 months, I've done a few podcast episodes exploring diverse perspectives on pronoun usage. In the most recent episode, Catherine Kronas, Eva Kirilova, Neil Doran, Lois Cardinal, and I tackled this topic directly. That episode will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube tomorrow morning. But people have asked for my thoughts in one place, so here they are, brought to you in 3 parts. Part 1, we've gone pronoun mad. In April, I attended a convention in Virginia. Leading up to this convention, I watched conversation amongst attendees about pronoun ribbons that they would be provided at registration. Sure enough, when I arrived, I had the option to pick my ribbon of choice for she, her, they, them, or he, him. And as if those options weren't enough, they even provided you a write your own pronouns for expressing your full pronoun creativity. I practically puked in my mouth as I kindly declined the ribbon. Why would I ever need a ribbon to instruct people on my pronouns? See, there's a certain portion of the population that has become absolutely captivated with sharing pronouns with anyone and everyone that they encounter. And interestingly, these individuals are rarely people who have undergone a transition. They are usually either people who are not transgender at all or people who identify as non-binary. And as someone who has gone to great lengths to transition, I never want to be asked my pronouns. Why not? Because what I'm going for is pretty obvious. Let's give this some thought. I go by the name Julia, a feminine name. I have long curly hair and regularly wear dresses and feminine clothing. If you encounter me in public, you'll often find me with a purse, and I've got a little makeup on as well. Oh yeah, and I have breasts. Now, I'm not here to tell anyone what pronouns people must use when they refer to me. That's not my place, and I am very much against compelled speech. But you shouldn't have a hard time deciphering what I'm going for. If you're looking for the clues, they are absolutely there. And this didn't used to be a problem. 5 years ago, people would have taken it as a given that I wanted to be referred to as she, her based on how I choose to present. But now, we have ridiculous flyers like what OK to be me handed out at my daughter's school that explicitly instructs people not to assume someone's pronoun based on name, clothing, or anything else. As this flyer highlights, using someone's pronouns is basic human dignity. Our pronouns are core to who we are. It's basic respect to use a person's correct pronouns. Now, I have a lot of issues with the idea that pronouns are core to who we are, but I'll get to that in part 2 of this video series. First, there's a paradox I want to explore. See, biology is a thing, and humans, like all mammals, are either male or female. I am biologically male, and I spent a long time trying to live under the societal expectations and social norms that we place upon men. That didn't work for me, so I then went to great lengths to align my presentation more closely with that of biological females because it felt more natural, and I knew how to better live my life that way. People understood that I was presenting as a woman, and it wasn't a problem until the invention of being non-binary. Now, I'm not going to explore non-binary identities here. I'll save that for a future video. But everything non-binary individuals represent is entirely different from the gender dysphoria experienced by transgender individuals like myself. See, I accept the sex binary and feel deeply that I just don't know how to live on the side of that binary prescribed by my biological sex. It's precisely because I accept the sex binary that I felt the need to transition. In contrast, non-binary individuals reject the concept of there even being a man-woman binary at all, and wish to use non-sex pronouns as part of a pursuit to defy the imposed sociological limitations of our sex binary. This is what happens when I talk about non-binary, so let's get back to the flyer. See, the advice that my daughter is being given is to explicitly use gender-neutral pronouns if you don't know what someone's pronouns are yet. So let's think about that for a moment. You've told us that it's very important to use someone's preferred pronouns and even call it a matter of human dignity. You then proceed to instruct people to use gender-neutral pronouns if you don't know what their pronouns are. And here's the problem. I do not identify as a they, them. I do not want gender pronouns used for me. I have undergone hormone reassignment therapy, renamed myself Julia, and had bottom surgery specifically because I identify as she, her. The vast majority of our population also doesn't identify as they, them, and want to have he or she used in alignment with their biological sex. See, the same people who have asserted so strongly that we must go to incredible lengths to always affirm with pronouns are the exact same people who have spent the last few years instructing people to call others they, them if we're not sure of their pronouns. Do you see how ridiculous this is? As someone who has transitioned, that's the last thing I want to receive. If you talk to a few non-transgender individuals, you'll most likely find that they too are not too keen on being called they, them. But we've now created a situation where our only path forward is for everyone to declare pronouns every time we introduce ourselves to anybody. We're expected to memorize the pronouns that everyone else in their life prefers in spite of social cues, and constantly check ourselves to make sure that we get it right every single time. This doesn't help transgender individuals like me. It actually makes it worse because now I get they, them frequently. In practice, only the most fervent individuals actually ask pronouns of every person they meet, and just make the assumption that most people use the pronouns that align with their biological sex. And then I come along as a transgender individual, and people have been taught that, as the flyer says, you should always use gender-neutral pronouns when you don't know what someone's preferred pronouns are. What if we just calmed down and remembered that these are just pronouns, little words we use to make sentences complete? What if we recognize that pronouns aren't there for the sake of the speaker or the individual being spoken about, but are simply there to convey a message to a third party in communication? Perhaps then we'd be able to get past all this nonsense. That's the end of part 1 of my series on pronouns. Next, I'll be exploring why it's so damaging for both transgender and non-transgender people to hold pronouns as so core to our identities.